Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal, and it seems like the entire WoW community has gone out in full force to discuss and to voice their thoughts about the current state of Mythic Plus, which everybody wants it to be in the best state possible, but it's just not quite there. Since the start of the Season 1 of the War Within expansion, it has been going slowly downhill, and some of the holes have been showing up with players calling for Blizzard to make some must-have changes the community's been waiting for a while, and looks like they're finally listening by trying to make the gearing aspects better, alt gearing much better, the Crest acquisition, gold even, as well as Valor. All of those things are getting juiced up to an 11, with all these catch-ups arriving for the patch 11.07, but also staying into the patch 11.1 to make sure the players have a much stronger start into Season 2 of War Within. But there's also now a survey floating around that may actually be asking players about a potential massive influential change going forward, and we'll also discuss that towards the tail end of the video. But for the most part, I do want to talk about all of the improvements arriving for M+ content in 11.07 and beyond. As always, if you guys want to see more regular updates for the War Within expansion, be sure to follow the channel and subscribe. But otherwise, let's dive right in. Starting from the top, we now have a new rewards scaling category for 3 currencies, one of them being crests, a variety of different crests from your gilded, your carved, your weathered, as well as the ruined, but also Valorstones that will now scale in terms of how many you can get from Mythic Plus dungeons, but also gold. Surprisingly, gold is actually going to be another currency that will scale with Mythic Plus dungeons, which is huge, basically meaning that completing higher keystone levels awards more of all 3 of those currencies, the crests, the gold, and Valorstones in particular. This is obviously the best part for the crest system, because this is the bulk of how we upgrade a lot of our gear, upgrading to the highest level depending on which crests we have and which ones we need. So first things first, based on the chart that presented us, you get the carved crest from +2 and +3 difficulty dungeons, ruined crest from +4, 5, 6, and 7, and then gildeds from +8 and above. And the gildeds specifically is what's going to be changing the most here. Technically, all the other crests are also affected, but gildeds and the catch-up on gildeds in particular is being much better solved this time around, as to encourage players to push some of the higher keys, essentially allowing you to earn 12 gildeds from a +8 like you already do on live, but then it's +14 from a +9, 16 gildeds from a +10, 18 gildeds from a +11, and up to 20 from a +12. However, there's also a bit of a caveat, because whenever you do run a Mythic Plus key, you can either time the key or not time it, and the amount of crests you get, whether you time it or not, changes quite a bit. Right now, over in the live realms, this current moment, you either can get 12 gilded crests for timing, or 5 if you don't time the key, which means you're losing about 7 gilded crests overall if you don't time the dungeon, which can lead to toxicity, can lead to players really dipping out the key. It looks like they're not going to be able to time it, like a single death wipe, and they're just like, you know what, I'm just going to find another group and get my gildeds from somewhere else. This doesn't feel like it's going to go anywhere. I'm not going to earn as many crests. I'm just trying to gear my character. So now they're changing that to, instead of reducing the amount of crests drop by 7, instead reduced by 4. So if you're doing a +10 dungeon, if you time it, you get +16 gilded crests. But if you don't time it, you will get 12. This is a lot better, because you still get a decent bit of gilded crests, and you still are encouraged to push higher end keys. So like, let's say you're doing a +12, you can either get 20 crests or 16 if you don't time it, which 16 is basically equivalent to a +10 that is timed. So it still is a decent bit. It still allows you to get all your crest caps, and I guess now there's no more caps anymore, but with this system continuing on into Season 2, you'll be able to cap out on your character much better by pushing some of the higher end content, but are not as punished for not timing those keys, which is a very good thing. What I was very surprised by is the fact that Valorstones, but also gold, will now scale with your keystone level. For Valorstones, it's, I think, a sticking point where a lot of players, when you're playing alts, you already got the gear on your main, you got all the Valor grind, all the crest grind on your main, and for your main, it's usually easy to gear that character out. Where I notice for my alts is, it's usually pretty easy for me to get crests from either delves or raids or dungeons, but I feel like I'm always stopped by the amount of Valorstones I can ultimately earn, and I end up having to grind out other content just just to get more Valorstones in order to upgrade all of my existing characters' gear. So the fact that Valorstones are now going to scale, I think it's going to make it much better for you to gear out your ults, doing higher end content and higher difficulty content, while to get more Valorstones, which will hopefully mean more upgraded gear for all of your ults. But gold being another currency that's also going to scale up, that one is also very unusual, because gold normally is not really a currency you get a lot of Mythic Plus keys, but if let's say all you do is M plus all the time, you're gonna need gold for consumables, you're gonna need gold to enchant your gear, you're gonna need gold to get some gems for your character as you get better upgrades. So I guess it makes sense for them to also upgrade the gold gains from dungeons as well, because it'll make that whole pugging M plus experience, or just focusing on M plus as a core component of endgame progression, something I'm excited for 1107, but I think it's something that we're really going to start noticing it a lot more when season 2 comes around, when it comes to gearing our main character, and it's something that I'm probably going to end up appreciating a lot more down the line. However, there's even other changes in the works as well. Another change they're planning on is to reduce the amount of crests needed in order to buy specifically the gilded nascent crests. These are the crests that are necessary in order to be able to create crafted items on your character. Like when you're trying to create a crafted bracer, crafted chest piece, crafted anything, you collect enough crests, you convert them into a nascent crest, and then you're able to slot it into your next craft in order to increase the item level of that piece. So if you have a nascent gilded crest, this means that the crafted item can go all the way up to item level of 636, which is pretty up there. However, previously it required you 90 crests in order to be able to get yourself a nascent gilded crest for crafting purposes, but they're reducing the cost from 90 down to 60, which is going to be more in line of how it was in the expansion of Dragonflight. This is overall a great change because it allows you every week, I guess if let's say season 2 comes around, it'll allow you every week to be able to craft at least one item of guaranteed 636 gear, but also upgrade another item at least twice. So you can gear out through dungeons, gear out through raids, or you can go alternatively for more crafting purposes while still being able to upgrade items if you want to. So it means you'll be able to get faster gear gains at the start of a new season, but also catching up for ults. It should just make it easier for you to be able to farm not as many gilded crests in order to start being able to craft some very solid gear on all of your characters. Overall, a very good change. It also opens up the economy on your crests a little bit, so you don't have to spend nearly as many dungeons and raids and farming gildeds in order to actually be able to craft all the pieces for your character. A nice change overall, and I like this one overall because it's going to be very similar to that of Dragonflight, which felt that it was a lot easier to gear characters, especially during Season 3 in the Dragonflight expansion. Another change they're making this time around is a bit more of a convenience one, but still something that I think a lot of players will appreciate. This one isn't a game changer, but they're essentially changing out how many crests you need in order to be able to upgrade or trade up all of your crests. So as your character reaches higher item levels, you get to reach certain watermark levels, and at certain level caps, other crests, like special lower tier crests, you don't really actually get to use them. They don't actually have any value to you because you don't really have any gear to spend them on. But if let's say you have a bunch of leftover carved crests, you can then trade them up from 90 carved crests into 15 ruined harbinger crests, which is a lot, but I guess it's like, otherwise, the crests don't really do anything for you to begin with, really. However, they're changing this a little bit by making the cost of the trade up a little bit less so. Instead of 90 of lower crests trade up to a higher rank, now it's going to be 45. Not really crazy change. I think it's going to be something appreciated on your alts, or maybe your possibly even your main for season 2. Like, it just means you'll have to run less dungeons, less raid bosses to slay, less gilded crests to collect from end game content. It just saves you a little bit of time when you're just focusing on capping on gilded crests specifically. It's a nice addition, but like I said, not necessarily game changing for what we're looking for. And I mentioned earlier that watermark for those crest trade ups and things, they are changing the watermark for the gilded crests to require item level 636 instead of 639, which a lot more players that have been playing at max content at end game level, mythic rating, high mythic plus dungeons, a lot more players have a character that's closer to 636 than 639. This is overall a good thing, more for your alts rather than for your main, because one of the things that they have as part of the catch-up for your alts is, depending on your character's watermark, the higher your item level of your character, the lower the cost for your ults. Like for example, the cost of Valorstones, there's a discount once your character reaches max level or higher level. All of your lower level ults actually get a cheaper cost to upgrade all the gear. But the same thing could also happen with your Crests as well. Like once your main reaches the 636 new watermark for Gilded Crest, all of your ults will actually have their Gilded Crest costs reduced to upgrade their gear. It's a slight reduction from 15 crests required to 10 crests, but it doesn't mean you save 5 crests that carries over into your next upgrade and allows you to use less crests to upgrade all of your ults gear. So this is more of a change to help your ults get geared once your main reaches a high enough item level, and having that watermark Gilded Crest cap be at 639 was a little too steep, because 636 is a lot more achievable because not everybody is going to have full every single slot of gear at max item level, which is also a great change and I think helps out the Mythic Plus in general, especially if you're looking to play multiple ults in a season. But it looks like they might actually be doing a lot more for the Mythic Plus, in particular with Season 2 and Season 3, as it looks like there's now a new survey that's going around that asks players regarding some of the different affixes of a season, and that we may see a change in the Mythic Plus environment. Right now, this is just a report that a new survey is out. We haven't actually seen Blizzard post anything outwards about it. This isn't a confirmed feature or a confirmed addition in the future, just something that's been talked about recently. But essentially, the survey asked players, what if they were to change how Mythic Plus dungeons function, so instead of being a timed experience, it maybe had like some kind of like a death limit instead of a time limit, similar to that of delves. Like when you run a delve, there's a death limit. If you die too many times, then you won't get the rewards at the end of a delve. And what if they were to add this type of a system to Mythic Plus content specifically? I think likely just trying to address the challenges peril affix, because it makes deaths a lot more punishing in Mythic Plus. It's something that we've talked about on the channel, and a lot of more players have been talking about it recently, and it's something a lot of players would love to see potentially go away or be adjusted in the future. But they brought up the idea in that survey, what if they were to replace the Mythic Plus environment to a death system, a death counter, rather than a timer? Now, there's a couple of different upsides to this. Again, not confirmed by Blizzard, but a lot of players are now speculating whether this would be something that would be good for the game or not. There are upsides to this and downsides if they were to implement something like this. And I'm not necessarily against them trying that for like 2 weeks over on the PTR once 11.1 goes live, just to see how it works out, just to see how that system plays out, and if it's something that the game should have ultimately going forward. But the upsides to that type of a change would be, so you don't have a timer anymore in Mythic Plus, it would have increased flexibility and reduced stress for every single dungeon. You could take Mythic Plus dungeons as you go with your group, and you can take them slow. You're no longer rushed by the timer. You can play whatever class you like and whatever spec you want to, and there will be a lot more flexibility for which classes and specs you can bring, because everybody can play up to different strengths. And if for some reason real life comes up, you could always step away for a few moments. If, let's say, you're in mid-Mythic Plus, something happens IRL, you have to back away for a moment. You won't be letting anybody down by burning the timer. Also, it'll allow players with groups that don't focus on the timer to focus on execution over speed. Groups will be likely more encouraged to crowd control mobs and control different targets, maybe make sure to single out enemies, like sap the entire, like crowd control an entire enemy team except for one, and take out the most powerful enemy in the group all by themselves without having to worry about any additional enemy casters interrupting the experience. You also may have an opportunity for more classes to join in the Mythic Plus experience. Right now, players are trying to maximize their timer, but also maximize their group capabilities, with some of the best group buffs, utility buffs, and all the different components to make a perfect composition to get through the dungeon as quickly and as safely as possible in the limited time left. However, if you could go a little slower, you could have a little bit more flexibility on which classes you might be able to bring into Mythic Pluses, potentially even changing up the meta by quite a bit. However, with upsides, there also are potential downsides with this type of a system. Like, if you no longer have a timer, your Mythic Plus keys may take a lot longer to complete, since nobody is in a rush to complete them, as all you have to go is go slow and steady and win the race. Players might even end up defaulting to degen mechanics like, hey, let's just wait until all cooldowns are up. Hey, let's just wait 10 minutes until Bloodlust before we pull the boss or pull a trash bag that's really difficult, because there's no real point to rush it anymore. You could just wait, and you might as well wait until everything is available, but that may also slow down everybody's Mythic Plus Keystone experience. it also may create an environment that may not even be that fun. Like, fun is part of the game and fun is part of the why we play WoW, but what if you could create a situation where you make extremely safe, small pulls, where classes designed to pull 8 mobs, 10 mobs, classes that are designed with huge AoE output depending on the enemies they're fighting, those classes might be stuck pulling like 2-3 enemies at a time, so it may actually make the encounters a little bit less engaging. And then also maybe a situation where you create weird comps. So instead of having a tank, healer, and a bunch of DPS, what if, because you only need to survive the dungeon, you don't really need to complete it as quickly as possible, what if instead the best comp became 2 healers, 3 tanks, just to make sure that nobody dies? Yeah, the boss is going to take an hour for you to complete, but as long as nobody makes an obvious mistake and plays to those strains of defensive cooldowns, double healer, 3 tanks, there's absolutely no way for you to lose. As long as you don't do something dumb in the next hour, as long as somebody dies, the key's beaten. And that may create some weird meta situations where we were playing with compositions and team roles very, very differently, but it could be one of those things that may include certain classes or even certain playstyles out of them, plus if they were to change it to a death tally system instead of a timer system. Like I said, there's upsides and downsides of potential, like, worst case, best case scenario for either one of these situations, and it's not something that Blizzard brought up in an official capacity, but I still would like to pass it off to you guys in the comments. Would you want potentially a death tally system over a timer system? Like, in general, whether you're doing high-end keys, low-end keys, that is something I actually would like to hear from you guys in the comments down below. But for now, that's going to be the whole entire list of some of the Mythic Plus improvements coming out in the patch 11.07, as well as 11.1. But as always, I want to thank all of you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys did enjoy this update. If you did enjoy it or found it informative, go ahead and give it a like. I would very, very much appreciate it. Join our Discord community to get regular updates for the War Within expansion and future patches like 11.07. Also, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Would love to hear what you guys think about this potential possible change from a timer to a death tally. Would you want to see it? Would you not want to see it? Why or why not? And as always, I'll see all of you guys in the next one.